Hi, everyone. I'm Mad Hildebrandt, and this is the Get Mad Show. Our guest today is Siah Correa Hemphill. She's a Democrat running for Senate District 28, primarying the sitting senator. Let's go. So thank you for being here with us, Siah.
It is an honor to be here, Matt. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So, what people really are interested in right now, since everybody's at home, is just really getting to know who you are as a person, not just as somebody who is running for office. Because people who are political, a lot of times what we see is just this political face. We don't really see who they are as a person. So I want to do that first, to just ask you, and I'm going to flip this over so you got your 1 minute. So go ahead.
Well, I'm Siah Correa Hemphill. I'm running for State Senate District 28. I'm a mom. I have 4 children and a cat, Crystal, who's our wonderful hunter. I'm also an educator. This is my 26th year in education, and I was inspired to pursue a career in special education after my son, Nicholas, was born with a rare genetic syndrome. And he was diagnosed with multiple disabilities, including bone cancer, when he was just 4 years old. And that resulted in a year of chemotherapy, a left leg amputation, and that experience really motivated me to fight for policy change so that other children and other families don't have to endure the same hardships that we did trying to access life-saving medical care that he needed, especially in our rural communities. So I want to really advocate for like telehealth support, since we have such a critical need for more providers in our rural communities.
Right, absolutely. And just really fast, tell me who you're at home right now. Tell me who's all at home, and
So
tell me a
we've
little
got it's a little crazy here. We've got 2 boys doing Google Classroom and Zoom, and my husband's in the other room. He's a photographer at Western, and they're having their weekly meeting in the bedroom. And I didn't know it, but he talks really loud in these meetings. So I'm like, close the door, I can still hear him. So you might hear some background noise, and our cat's like letting us know that she's not real comfortable with us being around all the time. She's complaining a lot these days.
Right. Well, that's great. That's great. And and what a really heartfelt reason to feel like that you really want to start getting into some politics and make some changes. I really think that is really commendable. And I know you are in a contested district. You're in Senate District 28, and this is your show, so I'm not mentioning your opponent. But let's talk about, since we're in the middle of this pandemic, and you just described why healthcare is so important to you and making a change in healthcare. So let's talk about your approach to not just the pandemic, but to healthcare, and how we can better take care of that. And I know you're in a very rural district. You're in my district, as a matter of fact. And so why don't you take a minute, and talk about that?
Yeah, so of course, healthcare is very, very important to me. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so it's very appropriate to be talking about that. And we've been navigating the healthcare system for the last 24 years with my son because of his multiple health challenges. And it is extremely complicated and stressful. And I believe that healthcare is a fundamental human right. Regardless of someone's circumstances, they should be able to access comprehensive, affordable, high quality health care. And that should include mental health care and reproductive care. And we can see right now, it's so evident in the middle of this pandemic, how critical it is to the overall health and well-being of our communities to ensure that each and every person is able to access the health care that they need to live healthy and productive lives. It benefits everyone and keeps us all safe when people can access that care that they need.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I know that it is a real problem in our district because, I think we have really two hospitals. You've got one out there and we've got one in Silver City and we have one down here in Socorro. And that's it. And they're not even large. They're small hospitals. And when we're talking about, where we're going to send our ill people from the pandemic, I mean, we don't, you might go up to the hospital in Socorro, but you're not really going to be here. You've got to go up into Albuquerque, and I know you're having the same issues there. And so it really is important, and I really think that those are some good ideas on that.
And doing whatever we can to help protect our rural hospitals that are in just real critical states right now because they had to cancel all their elective surgeries and other things like that because of the COVID-19. So.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I know another problem as we shift gears a little bit here is because again of COVID, we've got all our children are at home, and as you said, your children are at home right now. And so not only do we have to think about healthcare with our children right now, we're talking about education and the fact that we're doing so much of it at home. And, so we're getting more hands-on, and maybe people are beginning to see a little bit more about what's going on in education, particularly in their own neighborhoods and their own districts, because of what they're dealing with now, trying to hands-on teach their own children. So let's make that switch and let's talk about education and what your plans are for for education, not just throughout the state, but in our own district.
Okay. Well, I just want to start. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
By big shout out to the teachers because I don't know how Bryce's teacher ever got him to do anything. He's my 7-year-old, and it's been super stressful. So just want to say that I believe that education is the foundation of a democracy and the driver of economic prosperity. And I'm proud to be an educator. I've been an educator for the last 26 years, started out as a kindergarten teacher on the San Carlos Reservation. I always say that kindergarten teacher is my spirit animal. I'm a school psychologist now, and I believe that we need to be making sure that our public education system provides all students the skills they need to be productive members of our community. We can achieve that by making sure that we don't have further cuts to education. I've seen the devastating effects that can have on the well-being of our communities. So small class sizes, mentoring programs for new teachers, and a fully funded early childhood program.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All good ideas. There, things that were on my platform when I was running for Congress. So I really appreciate hearing those things. One of the things, again, we live in an agricultural district, and that's very much so throughout New Mexico. And since you would be not just for our district, but across the board, you're going to be in the state Senate if you actually were to win. And so let's talk about where you see us going for agriculture in our district and across the state.
Well, I know you grew up on a farm in Colorado, so that's awesome. You understand the work ethic that's needed to do that work. And my family has lived in New Mexico for hundreds of years. They were some of the first farmers and ranchers in the area cultivating the land. And because of that, I have a deep admiration and respect for farmers, ranchers, and dairy producers who are continuing this valuable and traditional work. They are the economic drivers of our agriculture economy. And I will support programs that can help them continue their work in sustainable ways, like soil and water conservation, and disaster and drought assistance, and rural economic development, and food and nutrition programs, so that they can continue to grow healthy, nutritious, sustainable, locally grown food for the health and well-being of our communities.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's very
Going to apples, right? We need to grow more apples. I remember the Apple Festival in Hillsborough, and It was Apple Central in the 80s. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. That is so very true. And when you're seeing, across the state, places that used to have orchards, that the orchards are now gone. And I know we're moving in towards, we're in a heating, time period as we're doing across the world, and that is going to be affecting agriculture certainly as we go forward. But rather than going into that, and I know a lot of my followers like to talk about climate change and things like that, and I think rather than moving into that, what I'd like to ask you, because I know it's important to you, is the idea of ethics in politics. And I know that ethics is a really big issue as we see, especially with the Me Too movement, and we see people at the national level who have been trading stocks based on insider information. Possibly, those things aren't proven yet, but there are a lot of hints and innuendos. And so let's talk about that. I know it's important to you. So talk about ethics in politics.
Okay, yeah. In order to have a just and functioning society, we have to have average people, average citizens, having an equal voice in creating laws, and we need equal representation. So in order to have equal representation where average citizens are able to be represented, we need to have campaign finance reform to get rid of large dollar donors' influence in politics. And we need to make sure that we have campaign finance reform in addition to more transparency in government to increase accountability and increase fairness and reduce government corruption. And that's the only way that we're going to move toward an economy, a fair economy that works for everyone instead of just the select few, those who are able to influence policies because of their large dollars. So that will help us create a more fair economy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's those are all good ideas. Everything that we've talked about, I really, they're very commendable. And thinking about, just thinking about the ethics in politics is just such an important topic these days. But we're at the end. So now I'm gonna, so thank you for being here, but I'm going to give you 1 more minute, and I want you to directly address the constituents and the voting public that are in our party, and why they should be voting for you, why you're the best candidate.
Well, I'm running for state senate because I believe that the children and families of Grant, Catron, and Socorro County deserve the very best that we can offer them. And that means the best education that meets the needs of all students. That means comprehensive, affordable, quality healthcare that everyone is able to access regardless of their circumstances. It means protecting our natural environment for the well-being of our children, the well-being of our communities, and the well-being of future generations. And it means moving toward a fair and just economy that's going to work for every single person. And that's what I bring. I'm running for state senate, and you can go to siahforsenate.com to join our team. And that was less than a minute.
Yeah, that's great. And I will also include, for everybody out there, I will include that information in the comments below. And thank you, Siah, for coming. And anybody who's interested, go check out her website. And regardless of who you vote for somebody. Get out there and vote. Primary elections are almost more important than the general election, because that's when you get your choice of who is in your party on that ballot. And thank you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
It was a privilege. Thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate the opportunity. Take care.
You too. And thank you, everybody.